All right, let's just jump right in. We are in this totally new era of AI, one where it doesn't just talk to you, it actually acts. We're talking about systems that can manage complex jobs all on their own, especially in places with huge stakes, like finance. But here's the thing, with that kind of power comes a whole new world of risk. So today, we're going to break down a brand new framework for governing these AIs to make sure they're not just powerful, but also safe.
So, I want you to imagine something. An AI is drafting a super important credit report for a huge multi-million-dollar loan. It pulls all the data, it crunches all the numbers, and it produces this document that looks absolutely perfect, flawless. But buried deep inside is one tiny hidden error. Maybe it used data that was over 2 years old. Nobody notices until it's way, way too late. So the real question is, how on earth do you even begin to stop something like that from happening?
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to get a handle on what this new AI superpower really is. Then, we'll look at why our old safety nets are basically broken and can't keep up. After that, we'll dive into the new solution, piece by piece. We'll talk about smart building blocks, a kind of GPS for AI actions, and we'll wrap it all up by talking about what this really means for the future of trust in technology.
First things first, we have got to be super clear about the kind of tech we're dealing with. I mean, we've all played around with chatbots, right? This is a whole different beast. We are talking about something way more powerful.
It's called Agentic AI. And honestly, the best way to wrap your head around it is to stop thinking of it as just an algorithm. Think of it more like a digital project manager. You give it a big picture goal and it just figures it out. It breaks the job down into smaller steps, it goes and grabs info from databases, it uses other software tools, and it runs that whole workflow by itself to get the job done. In other words, it has agency. It can do things.
Okay, so if these systems are so smart, what's the big deal? Well, the problem is that our entire rulebook for managing risk, it's ancient. It was written for a completely different kind of game, and it's totally useless for this new breed of AI.
And what's so interesting here is how this lays out the fundamental mismatch. Classical risk management is kind of like grading a final exam. You check things out before the test starts, and you grade the final paper at the very end. Simple. But with agentic AI, the danger isn't just in the final answer, it's in the process. That whole chain of events it took to get there, what the experts call its execution trajectory. And that's all happening in real time, where all sorts of unpredictable stuff can go wrong at any second.
And this quote, wow, it just nails the problem. A lot of the so-called safety we have today is just based on prompt guardrails. That's just a fancy way of saying we're literally just writing things like, hey, AI, please be careful, or be sure to use reasoned data, right into its instructions. And as the source material says, this creates an illusion of control. You're basically just crossing your fingers and hoping the AI listens. That's not a safety net, it's a suggestion box.
And you might be thinking, we'll just have a human double-check the work. But you can't. It's impossible. These systems are moving at machine speed, doing things in seconds that would take a person hours, maybe even days. A human reviewer, if they're even in the loop, usually only sees the final polished result. They're completely blind to the messy and potentially really dangerous path the AI took to create it.
So yeah, the old way is broken. We clearly need a totally new approach. We need a safety system that works at machine speed, one that can watch over the AI shoulder with the same step-by-step detail. It is time for a brand new rulebook.
And that solution is called runtime governance. Now, don't let the name intimidate you. It all comes down to two really important ideas: real-time and execution trajectory. So forget about just checking the final report. This is a system that watches every single move the AI makes as it's making it and enforces the rules at every single step of its journey.
So how does this actually work? Well, this whole framework boils down to a pretty straightforward three-step plan. First, you break down these big, complex AI jobs into small, reusable building blocks called capabilities. Second, you test the heck out of each one of those little blocks to make sure it's safe and reliable. And third, you deploy the runtime governance system to act like a supervisor, watching exactly how those blocks are being used in real time.
Okay, let's really dig into that first step, because honestly, this is the foundation that makes the whole system work. It really is all about building with smart bricks.
So what exactly is a capability? Well, the smart Lego analogy is perfect. Think of it as a specific action the AI can take, like retrieve current financials. And each one of these Lego bricks is pre-approved and comes with very strict rules about what it can and can't do. The key is, each brick is certified as safe and reliable before you even think about building something with it.
And this right here shows why this whole modular approach is such a game changer. You test a capability,
Let's say one that checks if data is recent enough just one time. Then you can reuse that same trusted Lego brick in hundreds of different AI systems. It's scalable, it's consistent. And get this is the best part. If you find a problem with a brick, you fix it once, and that fix instantly updates every single system that uses it. It is incredibly efficient. All right, so we have our smart bricks, our Legos. Now let's see how this all comes together. If those capabilities are the building blocks, then runtime governance is like a GPS that makes sure they're being put together the right way for every single journey the AI takes.
And this table just makes the difference crystal clear. Let's go back to our credit memo disaster scenario. The naive AI, it might just use data that's 26 months old because it slipped up. The governed AI, nope. That action is instantly blocked. A little guard pops up and says, sorry, data has to be less than 18 months old. What if it makes a small math error? Blocked. A totally separate, trusted calculator reruns the numbers and catches the mistake. What about trying to release the memo without an official sign-off? Impossible. The system is hard-coded so that it physically cannot move to the release step until it gets a verified human approval.
And this is what that safe route, that governed trajectory, looks like. It's not a free-for-all. It's a strict one-way street. The AI is not allowed to just jump from step 1 to step 5. It has to go through every single checkpoint in order. And at each of those points, there's a guard standing there, checking its work before it can move on. It is literally a pre-approved map with mandatory stops.
Now, of course, you don't need the same level of security for every single task, right? And this framework gets that. It uses risk tiers. For something low risk, like helping draft an email, the controls are pretty light. Think of it like a quiet neighborhood street. But for a high-impact job, like helping with a credit decision, the rules get way stricter. Now you're on a highway with a speed limit that's enforced by code. And for the most critical, Tier 4 stuff, the system is in default deny mode. It's a dead stop. It cannot do anything without explicit, verified permission.
So finally, let's zoom out and look at the big picture. Because even though we've been talking a lot about banking, this whole idea is so much bigger than just one industry. This is really about the future of how we trust our technology.
You see, for AI to really reach its full potential, it has to do more than just recommend things to us. We need to be able to trust it to actually act for us, responsibly and safely. And what we've just walked through isn't just some vague concept. It is a real, nuts and bolts, technical blueprint for exactly how we can build that trust.
So, if you only remember 3 things from all this, make it these. Number 1, safety and governance can't be an afterthought you just bolt on at the end. It has to be built in from the very beginning. Number 2, the AI's authority to do things has to be treated like a core feature, not just some setting you can toggle. And number 3, and this is the big one, the real thing holding AI back right now isn't what it's capable of, it's our ability to build a reliable and trustworthy control system around it.
Which leaves us with this one last question. The technology for AI that can truly act in the world, it's already here, and it's getting more powerful every single day. The real challenge we face isn't building the AI anymore. It's building the governance, the safety, and ultimately the trust to actually let it.